everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I just finished watching episode 4 of Andor, and, obviously full spoilers, and look, so we made a lot of good progress now in episode 4. It feels like we're finally starting to reach what the show's actually going to end up being, because what ends up happening is Andor and Lutheran? I think his name is Lutheran. Anyways, so they're off on their ship. We do not see anything from Andor's home planet. We don't see his mom, we don't see Bix, we don't see any of those people, and I'm sure they're going to come back into the show later on, but for right now, this is Lutheran and Andor show, right? So basically what ends up happening is he drops Andor off with someone else. He's already got like a crew of rebels working on this mysterious job, and then basically he tells Andor, like, all right, you're going to come up with a fake name, you're going to give them a fake name. Now, why he needs to lie to these fellow rebels, it's kind of unclear, but he makes it clear, I came all the way here for you, not for the thing you were trying to sell. I came here for you because I think you have actual potential to do good, right? And then at the same time, when he goes out and talks to the leader of this crew that they're going to do this job with, he's like, hey, this guy's disposable, don't worry about it, that's why I'm paying him money. So he's kind of telling Andor and this lady two different stories here. So it's a little unclear exactly what the truth is for Lutheran, but I guess that's kind of the spirit of the whole thing. They're all spies, right? Like they can't tell anyone the direct truth. So does he actually care about Andor, or is he just needed to recruit somebody? He's promising him money, but maybe his hope is that like Andor is just gonna believe in the cause and not need to get paid, right? Because they point out that none of the other members of this crew are getting paid. They're doing it because they're rebels. They they believe in the cause. They want to take down the Empire. And the job turns out to be, there is a garrison here on, I think it's Aldalfi is the name of the planet, and basically they're gonna just take the entire quarterly earnings from this place. They're literally like robbing a bank, I guess. They're going to take their equipment, they're going to take their gear, who knows what else they're going to take. And their big plan is that there's some sort of crystallized event that happens in the sky every 3 years, and it's supposed to look like this giant eye or something, right? Anyways, it's like this ancient spiritual thing from the people of Adolphi, but it's this big celestial event that happens in the atmosphere of this planet, and they're going to use that event as their cover to escape from the garrison once they get out of there, right? And they kind of go over the plan, and we don't see it happen this episode, so I can only imagine that next episode is when we're going to get our big action scene. And for right now, the crew's just kind of pretending to be a bunch of shepherds, just like in the lands of Aldalfi. And we learn a couple things here, like when Andor is talking to Lutheran, he talks about how, like, oh, I fought on Membran, right? And he lies about having fought for 2 years, and then he's like, actually, you were there for 6 months, and you were only a cook, and then you ran away. But I was like, haven't we heard Membran before? And it turns out to be the place that Han Solo was at. It was like the big mud planet at the beginning of Solo. So I don't know if they're implying that was the exact same time and place, and that's the situation that was happening. I'm not really sure. I'm sure someone else has already looked all this up. But they dropped names like Saw Gerrera, and they might have dropped the Cloud Riders' names. I'm not sure. I gotta watch it again, because they were talking a lot, and there's like a lot of little tiny Easter eggs. And that's kind of the funny thing, is like, as the show is coming out, it's like there's not going to be any Easter eggs, but there's a ton of Easter eggs in this episode. Like kind of a crazy amount, actually, because what ends up happening while Andor's doing all that and they're getting ready for their plan, we follow Lutheran, who, like, he's headed back to Coruscant, so yay, we're gonna get back to Coruscant. We see him kind of dress himself up. He puts on a wig, he puts on fancy robes, we see him practicing his smile, so you can tell, like, okay, so he's putting on this act for Coruscant, like, he's got to be this other person who's not in any way involved with rebel activity, and he goes there, and he turns out to be somewhat of an artifacts dealer. Like, he just sells artifacts from, like, ancient times, and this is where we get a crazy amount of Easter eggs, like stuff that I'm sure, like, not a lot of people have even noticed yet, right? Like, someone said, I saw there was Star Killer's armor from the Force Unleashed games, like his dark side armor. There's like a Gungan shield. There's some Mandalorian armor. I noticed some stone tablets that they look like the Mortis gods tablets to me. With the hand symbols, right? There's just all kinds of stuff going on in the background of this place. But basically, this thing he operates is a cover for Mon Mothma to visit him. And she's like, oh, I'm shopping for my husband, gonna buy him some cool artifacts, right? But really, this is their meeting place for her to transfer funds to his operations. So the deal seems to be that, Mon Mothma, of course, she's still part of the Imperial Senate. She can't be upfront about any of this. She has to, meet here in secret, give him money, I guess, and then he decides what kind of jobs he's gonna do. I'm not sure how this arrangement came about. Like he must have approached her and said, "Hey, I want to fight the Empire, and I'll find people to do missions." Like I don't know how exactly you form this relationship, and you find each other. I don't know. Maybe there's like a dark web for rebels being like, "Hey, you want to fight Empire? I'll fight Empire. Give me money and I'll fight Empire." Maybe I don't know how you set this up. But anyways, the other interesting thing, and this is like you can start seeing the tension of Mon Mothma's whole storyline here, where it's like she's like, I went to the bank and they were all new faces, and my driver's new. I don't know this guy, and it seems like she's being watched everywhere. Everyone's got an eye on everyone else, and that's kind of how you turn out in these like a lot of these like fascist systems where it's like everyone is being watched by everyone else, and you don't know who might turn you into the ISB, who we meet a lot of this episode, the Intelligence Security Bureau. I think that's what it stands for, ISB. And so here we meet some new characters. So we've seen this lady in the trailer. I don't quite remember her name. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again. But we see this officer for the ISB, and they talk about basically everything that happened in those first 3 episodes of Andor and how this corporation has completely failed, and they're kind of just looking into it. Which, by the way, now the Empire basically told the top people of the corporation that we've come to know, basically like, hey, the corporation's out. The Empire's going to take over. Congratulations. And I'm pretty sure that the main dude got fired. The guy who's like, he obviously wanted to be all Imperial and follow the rules by the book and everything. I'm pretty sure he got fired because we see him go back to his mom's house and his mom slaps him, and so I don't know where they're gonna go with that guy. I don't know if he's gonna try to join the Empire and become more of a serious threat, but he pretty much got humiliated just this whole time. So sucks for that guy. Anyways, and basically we see this lieutenant, this blonde lady who's a member of the ISB. She's basically trying to say, because the box that Andor had stolen and that they managed to recover during their escape, that little box that he was trying to sell Lutheran in the first place, that was from her sector, so it's under her authority to investigate everything that happened here. And she kind of has to argue with another lieutenant, and it's this whole thing with inner politics and people competing for advancements in their career and a bunch of stuff like that, right? Just people arguing, right? But obviously they introduced her, so she's going to be a bigger part of the story. She's going to become more involved with trying to track down Andor and whatever other rebel groups, right? I'm sure they're going to end up finding out about Lutheran and all his dealings and what his actual place is with hiring these crews. So I don't know. It still feels like a lot of setup, but it does at least feel like next episode we're gonna get this big heist. This big kind of action heist moment. So that's gonna be fun. And I am curious because we see a lot more footage in the trailers for Cassian's home planet. So I don't know how they're gonna be brought back into the fold, but obviously at some point we're gonna go back there and catch up with those guys. But yeah, right now it does still feel like we're setting things up. You know what I mean? Which I guess is fair. This is episode 4, but those first 3 episodes really just felt like one episode. And I believe the idea is that each little arc is gonna be 3 episodes each. So this arc might just be about this heist and meeting Mon Mothma, right? And now we're gonna have these 2 different storylines. And look, I'll admit, seeing Coruscant again is great, and obviously, you hear mentions of what they dropped someone's name, like Mon Mothma's husband had invited someone to dinner. Oh man, what was it? Was it Sly Moore, who I think is the skinny, bald, white-skinned lady that you see hanging out with Palpatine in the prequels? I think that's her. I think that's Sly Moore, right? Anyways, it's basically he had invited a bunch of like, you know, evil senators to their house for dinner, and she's like, these people hate me. They're trying to undo everything I want to do. And her husband's just like, no, chill out, calm down, whatever, you know. So you can tell, like, okay, this guy's this guy's useless. He's not. I mean, he probably has no idea that her whole rebellion thing is happening, but still, he like just does not care at all. So I don't know. I'm more interested right now in the whole Coruscant, you know, senatorial area of it. The thing is, we know Mon Mothma doesn't leave the Senate until Star Wars Rebels, which will not be in, like, they'll cover that time period in Season 2 of Andor, so it's not going to happen now. So for right now, she's pretty much stuck just having to live this double life for now. And I don't know. It's interesting. There's clearly a whole plan here as to where the show's going. I'm curious what the bigger picture is. But you know, we see the seeds of rebellion, but everyone's still like in these scattered little crews and little rebellion cells, and nothing's really organized together. So it's pretty interesting. We'll see where this goes, and they're gonna pull off that heist next episode. So overall, I think this was a really fun one. There's a lot of little Easter eggs and little references that they talk about, like a ton of stuff. So I'm definitely waiting for those channels to do all the breakdowns, to like, you know, comb through this episode several times and find everything. But yeah, I like this one. I would say this is probably the strongest episode so far, which, I mean, that's a good thing, right? Like, you know, I share some of the criticisms that people have had, right? Like, some people are kind of like, oh, there's not a lot of Star Wars stuff in here, in that sense that they mean there's not a lot of like interconnected kind of references, you know, which, you know, it doesn't have to be that show. Like, obviously this just has to be about Andor, but when it comes to, like, you know, Mon Mothma and Coruscant and the rebellion, you know, like, that's the kind of stuff I was sort of waiting to see, and it feels like we're finally getting there, you know, so that's a good thing. There have been a lot of other kind of, like, people have said, like, the show is boring, and look, I think it's just, the show is more smartly written. It's not written like an action show, I guess is the way to say it, you know. So I don't know. I think anyone who might have found those first 3 episodes boring, I think this one will be better, and it definitely looks like we're finally going to get some action scenes in the next episode. I think that's another thing that a lot of people have been sort of waiting for, which, you know, I think 3rd episode we got some pretty decent action scenes, but you know, I don't know. I don't know how most people feel about it. It's been getting great ratings. You know, I just don't know the average person. I don't know how they feel about Andor. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if like, big Star Wars fans are probably loving it, but like the average audience, like, are you bored? I don't know. I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm seeing where it's going. So it does feel like I'm kind of waiting to get to that point, because like I've seen the trailers, obviously. Like, I know what's being promised, you know, so I'm like waiting to get there, and it feels like we are building to it. So, you know, it is what it is. Anyways, let me know how you feel about episode 4 of Andor. Did you catch all those references, all those little Easter eggs? Because there is a bunch of stuff here. So I'm excited for those videos that people do where they break it all down. All right, I will see you guys next time. Bye.